My son just got his driver license here in the US, and it was really interesting to see how different it is to get your driver license in the US versus Germany. Hi, I'm Sissy. I'm originally from Berlin, Germany, and I've been living in the US for 16 years. So in Germany you have to be at least 18 years old to get your driver license, or with 17 you can have some kind of an instructional permit where you are only allowed to drive with another adult. Where here in the US, it depends on the state. In some states you can start as early as 15 for a learner's permit, and in most states it's around 16. So yeah, we have definitely much younger drivers here in the US than in Germany. Another thing that's really different is that in Germany you need to take a first aid course. Without that it's not possible to get your driver license. And by law this takes 9 times 45 minutes, so it takes usually 1 day, maybe 2 days to absorb this course. And what do you learn in this course? Literally how to behave after a car accident. What do you have to do? What are the first steps? And also how to set up and where to set up the warning triangle. By law in Germany, everybody has to have a warning triangle in their car. But of course also you get basic life-saving training, including CPR. My son here in the US never had to do that. And another thing is, in Germany you have to go to get your driver license in a school where you learn the theory about the traffic signs, about traffic laws and all that. These are a little bit more complicated, I find, in Germany than here in the US. The major rule in the US is really to obey the stop signs. There's not so many different signs that are so difficult. The right of way in Germany can be confusing for non-Germans, and on some streets it is, for example, always the person who is on the right side who has the right of way. So it can be a little tricky, so there is a lot of traffic signs to learn and a lot of rules. I think it's just really super easy here in the US, so tourists can also without problems drive on these roads because the traffic signs are pretty easy to read. So the driving school takes 14 times 90 minutes, and that usually takes a couple of weeks, and you'll learn 1,000 different questions to answer, and then this is leading to the final test that will have 30 questions out of these 1,000 questions included. Many people really fail this test the first time around. It is pretty tough. And while my son here in the US also of course had to pass a test, there was no hours required and no driving school where he had to attend to. It was just on him to basically learn everything with a simple practice test that the DDS offered on their website. But he had to do another thing. He had to do the Joshua's law, which only in some states in the US exists, and that's only for drivers under the age of 17. Officially it says it takes 30 hours to complete, but in reality my son was able to finish this within 2 days at home, and the end test wasn't too difficult either. And the next thing that's really different in Germany is you need to have a driving instructor. You cannot just learn with your parents or any adult. You need to hire someone for that. And there is a certain amount of hours required that you must take by law. And those include 12 hours that you must by law drive. For example, 4 hours at night and 3 hours that you have to drive on a highway. Added to these 12 hours that you have to do by law, that depends on the driver, how good the driver is. The instructor basically says when it's time to get really to the road test. He decides how many hours. On average, people need 18, some more, some less. So that makes 18 hours of regular driving plus 12 hours of special driving. While my son here in the US never ever had a driving instructor besides us, his parents, so that was really nice. And now let's talk about the road test. The road test in Germany is really difficult. They mean business. And what's also different is that your own driving instructor sits during the road test on your side, and on the back seat sits the tester. He's testing your abilities. He tells you what you should do to prove him you're a safe driver. And what's also different is that you are not driving your own car for this, neither for the driving lessons that you get from your driving instructor. It is actually his personal car car that he is using, that you're driving, and that's the same car you're using for your road test. While here in the US, my son did his road test with his own car. Well, this makes you definitely nervous if you have two people watching you how to drive. There's someone, they're both having their eyes on you. And these cars in Germany also have something special. The person, your driving instructor, has extra brakes. So in case you really mess up and do something really wrong, he has the ability to brake. Yeah, people really fail this road test. They test you really under hardcore conditions, especially if you're in a big city. And let me tell you, my tester one time, because I failed myself twice, I drove one time 60 minutes until I made a stupid mistake and I failed again. So these testers, they can be pretty harsh on you. I was just checking for statistics and it blew my mind. 45% failed in Hamburg in 2020 the first attempt of the road test. 40% failed in Bremen and 37% failed in Berlin. Well, my son just had his road test. It was easy peasy. It was all relaxed in his own car. It was 2 times parking he had to prove, but that was on the own parking lot from the DDS office. And then he had to drive a little around. It took maybe a total of 15 minutes. And here comes the probably worst thing of getting a driver license in Germany. It is so much more expensive. It is ridiculous. Cost, depending on the area you live, apparently there are still differences. It is a little cheaper in East Germany to this day than in West Germany, and it can cost between 1,500 to 2,200 euros. And why is this so expensive? Well, a big chunk of this goes basically to the driving school and the driving instructor, because 1 hour of driving can cost something between 24 and 55 euros. So if we have, for example, 12 hours of special driving, that could cost 400 euros plus 20 normal driving hours, 700 euros, plus the fees for the road test, the driving school. You even need to pay yourself for the photos. It could cost something like 1,880 euros to get your driver license in Germany. It is so ridiculous expensive to get your driver license. For my son here in the US, we paid probably like $30. We had to pay $20 for the Joshua's Law and $10 for the road test. By the way, did you know that Tesla just opened up a new factory in Germany? Elon Musk said some really weird things about Berlin, which I'm reacting to in this video if you're curious. Auf Wiedersehen!